Is this working? This is a short narrative written in 1986 by myself, Tony Levin. It's a political or cultural statement, and it's called Everybody's Children. This town is, wait, before I say it, and I will say it, it's been running through my mind for days now, and it's gotten to the point where I suppose I have to say it. But before that, I want to tell you about me, about us, because what I have to say is important to us, and I want to make completely sure that you understand what I have to say, or else there's not much point to saying it. I've been walking through this town for days now, just walking and watching you. You probably don't even notice me, but I've been here long enough to know a thing or two about you. Shall I tell you about yourself? This is something that's bound to be painful, so maybe you want to bow out now while you can. If you read on, you're bound to come face to face with your own petty mind. And that's a scary thing if you're not ready. Ready? We know you. That's the first thing. We know what you are. We may not know exactly who you are, but when we meet you, we recognize you. You can't hide it. Do you understand me? There you go. I hope so. If you're not quite sure what I mean, as I expect most of you aren't, don't worry. That just makes you average. You people are not very good at seeing through the costumes that you wear, not even your own. To me, to us, it's just like looking at the outside of an apartment building at night. We see inside, we see that each of you has his or her own little scene going on. But from the outside, it's all the same. You look at me with disdain, which is just ignorance spelled a different way. Am I offending you already? Then switch on the cable TV and forget it. It's only getting worse. Now, if I could only find Sarah. Sarah's not really one of us. As a matter of fact, she's strictly one of you. But she's the only person I know in this part of the world. And, I'm sorry. And to tell the truth, I'm getting a little itchy, you know where. And Sarah's never been one to turn down a good screw when one's available. So I'm still searching. I'm probably better off without her. Sarah's one of those costume people, many of you are. You dress like businessmen or military personnel or sometimes even hippies like Sarah. But we know what's quivering and quaking under those costumes. We don't dress like anything, and that's why you don't notice us. The less attention one draws to oneself in general, the better. Attention can be good or bad, more often both, depending on who's giving it to you. If you would give more attention to yourself, to your real self, you'd find you don't need attention like that from other people. But then you'd be one of us, and there'd be no need for my little tirade. Speaking of attention, you folks seem to give a lot of attention to unreal things, don't you? You worry a lot. Worry is not a good thing, although it has its place. I worry about getting by, not in the sense of making money and all that. That's your game. Take Crazy Larry. I see him sitting there with his old lady, sheets of acid in his backpack, dosing those of you with the cash and the incentive, selling you his own bad trip for a couple of bucks, 5 or 6 if you're new in town. You say to him, "How's it hanging, Larry?" And he'll answer, "Hey, I'm getting by." But that's not the kind of getting by I'm talking about. Bye-bye, Larry and old lady. Time to hit home and spell out the scene for the baby lamb. Here's hoping baby will get by too. No use crying. When it's gone, it's just gone. That's all. What I mean when I talk about getting by, in its raw form, is getting by all of you every day of my life. You've got the muscle, but we've got the bone, and there's no getting around that. So you can flex your muscle all you want, and you won't find us at your wedding. Getting by is keeping your head straight, and you can go on and on about your head, but we can see plain as day that you're underground with no reason to ever question it, so save your talk. Walk the dog, feed the cat, sniff the garbage, because you know what's really going on anyway. If you could spend 5 minutes being where you are when you're there, you would know exactly what I mean, but you'll never take the time. Trust me on that one. You may have the muscle, but I know you. Walk on down the mall and you're bound to come upon Happy George. Well, waxing thin these days, but once upon a time he could have been. Could have been? Did I hear you right? Listen close now. Nobody ever could have been. Do you hear me? You've always been and will always be, but you never could have been anything. That's going to be hard for some of you to grasp, but somewhere inside that mess you call your mind, you know what I'm saying. At least George is happy. Can you say that? If you can bring yourself to speak the words, I'll save you the trouble of trying to prove it. You're not happy, and that's all there is to it. If you were, you'd know it. Not the way you know where your car keys are, or the way you know how long the roast should cook. You know it, and that's all I'm going to say about it. This town is everybody's children. That's not what I want to say. That's coming later, but I thought I'd throw it in anyway. Everybody's children, worrying and crying about this and that. Do you smell? Does your hair look good? Is the rent money coming through? Stop. Just stop and look around you and you'll be able to tell if you belong where you are. You still don't recognize me, do you? I wouldn't think so. Recognize yourself. If you say no, you're lying, and you know damn well what I'm talking about. If it's one thing you're good at, it's being self-righteous and pretentious. You will say the same of me, I know, but you know what I'm saying is true. So even if that doesn't make it right, it sets me a damn sight better off than you pretend to be. At some point before you die, you'll look back on your life, and you'll know just how bad you fucked up. At that point, I hope you remember what I'm saying to you here, because it would have saved you a whole lot of trouble. When you're done reading this, why don't you go outside and look around? See if you can spot one of us walking around. I won't try to tell you what we look like because, like I said, we really don't look like anything, and there's a lesson in there if you look hard enough. What I've got to say to you probably won't make much sense, but that's your fault, not mine. We don't say things right out because it's a sure way to get yourself misunderstood. The world is fuller than it can hold of misunderstanding already, and we've figured out over a long period of time that saying nothing gets the point across much stronger than saying what you think you mean. I'm going to say it soon, so perk up your ears, shut the dog up, and turn the light up. Quit pretending, stop defending yourself against some imaginary dragons and lopsided windmills, and take a good hard look at the world. For heaven's sake. Now, if you think this is the last of me and mine, I'll have to inform you that you're sadly mistaken. We're growing in numbers every day, and pretty soon you won't have the muscle anymore. I can wait it out, but will you be able to face it? Here's hoping you'll stay afloat when the deluge hits. Maybe you'll learn something from it all. The meek shall inherit the earth, for all that's worth. Where are the whores? A town like this must have whores. Oh, was that her? That must have been her. Maybe it was you, and if it was, I don't mind telling you that you look like a whore. Don't get me wrong, I happen to like whores, not that I've ever visited one myself. Never needed to. You and your angelic little daughters get all wet anytime one of us even looks your way. And we can lay it on thicker than you can lay on that makeup, and you'll never even really look at us because you're too busy worrying about whether you smell and whether your hair looks good. If you could see us like we see you, you wouldn't be one of you. That's all there is to it. We're the humans, and who the hell are you? It really doesn't matter in the end. I'll be gone before the sun rises, and I'd lay even money that you'll be sleeping on the wet spot. You don't take the time to notice these things, darling, worrying that you overmoaned it. That's all right. We know what it does to you when it's real. Tell Jack to hold dinner in the microwave. I'll meet you at Mrs. Fields' Cookies. You and your costumes. There's Bridget Bardot, there's Fred Astaire, that's Boy George. Who gives a damn if Buddy's coming? When the shit hits the fan, it'll be you against Ralph Lauren, and we needn't argue that one out. Climb out of the closet and into the lake. This time it's just you and me. Leave your hairdresser at home. Christ, with all your aching feet, you think Kinney'd be out of business. This town is everybody's children pretending that they're just getting by. And that's the bottom line.